In this video, we're going to look at 5 custom builds from the MakerPipe community, and these are all wildly different, but we're going to highlight different techniques so you can get some ideas for whatever it is that you're making. And the one thing these things do have in common is they're all made with off-the-shelf electrical EMT conduit and clamps from MakerPipe.com, and you can use those two materials to build all kinds of awesome stuff, as we're going to look at, and you don't have to do any welding. You just use handheld tools. And there's some really cool builds in here. This first one comes from an artist, Easy Work on Instagram, and they built this really cool table utilizing the MakerPipe crossover clamps and then EMT conduit and then a few of the other MakerPipe connectors. And this thing turned out really cool. I think it's really just a great aesthetic and just a pretty nice like industrial look and a pretty custom table, which I think is really awesome. And we can see here that it essentially just has these two verticals that go up and kind of rest in the planks of wood on top. And then they use the crossover clamp to join these pieces of conduit together. And then they use some of the MakerPipe T connectors to add cross supports from one side to the other. And we can go to another picture and kind of break that down here. So essentially, like I said, it's just the crossover clamps in a few different areas, as we can see here, just to kind of add these pieces of conduit, that go back and forth from that vertical to that vertical. Same thing on this side, and then another crossover clamp just to add this long horizontal piece of conduit from one side to the other. And then they used MakerPipe connectors to kind of grab onto these and then add the vertical pieces going up. And this just combines to create a really cool aesthetic, and it looks like it's secured using washers and some bolts and probably some of the threaded pipe inserts. But really custom and unique table, but awesome nonetheless, and I think has some great techniques in there. So thanks so much for sharing this. We love seeing it. Next up are some marching band props that were shared by Steve a little bit ago, and these are really cool because these are pretty much the classic banner frame that we see pretty often built with MakerPipe and conduit. But essentially they built this platform down here, pretty much just a rectangular frame, I think with it looks like the MakerPipe 90 degree, or no, probably the T connectors. So just a T connector in each corner just to make this rectangular frame going between the T connectors, just like that. We've got the other two pieces in between them. And then pretty much there's just a piece of, it looks like wood on top of that. And then they have some of the MakerPipe T connectors grabbing on to those horizontal bars. And that is what's sending these pipes up to the very top. And then at the very top of that, I imagine it's two more T connectors being used just to add this last cross support in between the two verticals. And then that's what they're actually stretching the cloth to, and actually securing that cloth. But actually, it looks like we can see here they're using, it looks like a quick clamp and a adjustable angle hinge end clamp. So it looks like this is actually, maybe this frame isn't made with conduit. You could make this rectangular frame if you wanted to with conduit and connectors, but it looks like this actually might be something else that they're just actually securing and reinforcing with MakerPipe and conduit, as we can see here. So it's just this angled bar that's going from the middle of the rectangle down to the edge of the board, and then they're using the adjustable angle end clamp to kind of secure that in place there. So that's pretty cool. This must be some kind of unique marching band frame that they already had or knew about, but then wanted to reinforce it. So that's really cool, and just kind of shows the possibilities. You can do all kind of combinations and make pretty much anything custom that you need for all kinds of stuff. And marching bands and custom props are one of those areas where people find conduit connectors useful. But this is really cool, Steve. Thanks so much for sharing it. Next up is a platform blind that was put together by Bob, and this is really cool here. We can see they've got this wooden kind of platform, and they pretty much just built this blind on top of it with, you guessed it, a combination of EMT conduit and MakerPipe connectors. Essentially, it's just a lot of verticals secured with flanges down here that we can see. They've got some T connectors to add some cross supports. They got adjustable angle hinge connectors to add some angled supports. And this pretty much has a triangle design with a lot of hinging pieces that are able to kind of change the shape of this whenever they're hunting. They need to stand up and kind of stick their head out of a panel, and that's really cool. And here we can see it in place on the water and set up for some duck hunting, which is really cool. And like I said, just a ton of connectors in here. We'll see a lot of T's. They obviously spray painted the frame, to kind of blend in with the camouflage. So that's really cool, and just a lot of great techniques in this one. So I really appreciate you sharing this, Bob. Next up is a really cool pipe desk that was shared a while ago by Alex, and this is very similar to the design for the kit that we have on the website, where essentially you just use MakerPipe 90 degree connectors to make the rectangular frame up top, and that just allows you to add these verticals, one in each corner. And then it also allows you to add the cross supports from the front to the back and from side to side, just like that. And then it also allows you to add Actually, sorry, they got two more 90-degree connectors down here, which then allows you to add these cross supports from the front vertical to the back vertical. And you can't really see that there. There we go. Just like that, with two more T connectors. And then we can see here in the middle, this is actually a 180-degree connector, which works really good in this situation to break up this long span, and then add another vertical in the middle of the frame to support that heavy top there. And then we can see they also use an adjustable angle hinge connector to add an angled piece of conduit to support the top. So a really good desk frame. We have a kit on the website for this, and it's just a really great design and a great way to make a custom desk. And you can customize the dimensions based on the tabletop that you want to use. You can customize this to make an L. A lot of cool possibilities. So thanks so much for sharing this. I really appreciate it. Next up is another hunting blind, but this one is on a boat. And this is really cool because we can see here that they're utilizing a small mounting bracket on the edge of their boat where they've got this small platform, it looks like, and they're using the adjustable angle flange from MakerPipe to add this cross support from one side of the boat to the other. So they got that there, got that there. This is going all the way across. And then they're using the MakerPipe adjustable angle connector to grab onto that cross support, and that's what's adding this piece here. And then this is actually bent and then extends all the way down to the other side, and then it's mirrored on the back there. So that's really cool, and then creates this hinging mechanism that you can fold this blind down really easily, and then fold it up, of course, whenever you need the blind functionality. And something with this is because this is such a long span, and it's got these 90-degree bends in the corner, you'll probably have to break up the span and use a coupling somewhere in the middle. So that's just something to keep in mind whenever you're working with long lengths like this. But really cool, really simple blind, just a few connectors and some simple techniques, but a really great one. So thanks so much for sharing this, Jonathan. Awesome build. Last but not least is a pizza cart from Steve, and this is really cool. I love this. I think I'm going to be getting a pizza oven real soon, so I might take some inspiration from this and build my own cart. But essentially, this is just meant to be a firewood cart and kind of stand for this pizza oven, as we can see here. And it's pretty simple overall. It's just 90-degree connectors. I think there's 6 per side in total, and they've just got the verticals extending up through those 90s on each one. And they've got these cross supports here, and then just like we looked at with the desk build, pretty much just add this 90 added this piece of conduit to the other side as well at the same time, because it joins 3 pieces of conduit together to create that 90-degree elbow. So it's pretty much just creating this rectangular cube, adding some casters to the bottom. We sell casters on the website with a 3D printed insert that you can hammer in, and that works really well for allowing your builds to roll. And we can see here they also incorporated some shelves into this, and they've got this custom kind of like metal round a compartment here that they use for storing firewood and the different kindling and things like that. So that's really cool, and just kind of shows again that you can customize builds really easily and get them exactly how you want for your specific space and for your setup, for your different hobbies. And this is a great example of that, and I think just really cool for this pizza cart. So thanks so much to everybody for sharing these builds. As always, there'll be a link down below if you want to check any of them out in more detail. If you have any questions, feel free to comment those down below, and we'll be happy to help. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.